All right, so welcome everyone. From today onwards, I'm going to start a brand new series on CompTIA Security Plus exam. Okay, and we'll be covering new chapters every other day. Okay, I would like to hear your feedback. If you have any question about any of the topic or subtopic, do let me know in the comment section below. If you like such content, subscribe this channel. This will boost my confidence as well. So without taking much time, let's get started. All right. So as you can see, there are total 28 chapters in it. We are going to go one by one. Don't worry. So let's begin with the very first chapter. This is on comparing various type of security controls. Okay. So let's begin, guys. The very first chapter name is the security control. So first of all, understand what is security control. Well, security control is type of safeguard. It's a type of safeguard or security solution in a simple word, or maybe countermeasure. Remember, why we are talking very much, why are we using those jargon is because this is the way you have to answer in a exam as well. Okay, so this is very important you remember this keyword, but otherwise say security controls is in your real world is like using a lock, as simple as that, or maybe using any sort of security solutions, maybe using CCTV cameras, or maybe any sort of logical solution, maybe using a password on your mobile phone. This is also a security control. Okay, now let's talk from the computer system or from the enterprise point of view. Okay, so let's try to understand controls category first, then we will talk about the controls types. So let's talk about the controls category. Now in the control categories, we first have technical control. Okay, now technical controls are the controls which basically executed by the computer system. Okay, it's actually executed by the computer system. Okay, example could be maybe authentication. In the computer system, in the enterprise network, there are multiple authentication system we have. For example, we have username and password. Just like if you want to access in the enterprise network, if you want to access Wi-Fi, you have to enter the username and password, correct? There are few more authentication methods available, which is certificate based authentication method as well. In the certificate based authentication method, you will be prompted with the server or device certificate. Once you authorize it, then you can get access to it. You have to verify if the certificate is correct or not. Just like when you visit your google.com, you get a prompt on the top, and you can validate it. If the server certificate is not valid or maybe expired, you get a red alert, red flag into it, right? So these are authentication example. Then we also have some more examples like access control. Okay, remember these are all implemented by the computer system. Okay, that's why it is called technical control. Okay, I haven't written somewhere, so remember this is, yeah, I have written it. Yes, it is all technical control. So anything that has been implemented by computer system, that's called technical control. Now back to the another point. We also have few more example which could be access control based, like maybe you can say, let's say I'll take it here, access control. Okay, access control. So maybe in the enterprise network, whenever you want to access certain files, or you actually want to access you want to gain some privilege access to access certain file or some important file. Before you do that, you have to authenticate yourself. The computer system will verify, are you authorized to access those files or not. If you're unauthorized, then you will be prohibited, you will be stopped there itself. Okay, that's called access control. Okay, that's where we'll be implementing different access control. It could be some additional security measures as well, like using two factor authentication. So if you want to access certain file, I can implement, or maybe some critical resources, or even in general resources, I can implement the two factor authentication, where after entering username and password, you also have to enter the maybe the one time password delivered on your phone, or maybe any other token device as well. Now this authorization is also managed, just wanted to add, it's also managed by another device called privilege access management solution, which is again comes under the access control. So don't worry about it. Okay. Next, we also have other examples like auditing option. Okay. So auditing is basically a mechanism where user activity is all tracked. So your activity, whatever you're doing in the company, will be in track, where you created a new file, you access another user's files, you deleted certain file, you modified certain file. This is all comes under the auditing. Okay. In the enterprise network, there is very popular words. We say AAA, AAA. Okay. This includes the authentication, authorization, and accounting. This is all covered under the technical controls. Okay. Now, if I have to take few more example, it could be implementing security system or any logical access control. So this is all by computer system. Okay. Example could be implementing firewall. It's a physical firewall, so I can implement a firewall on my company, so that this is my LAN network, and I implement a firewall, so that I can protect my infrastructure from any external threats, right? I can even deploy the firewall within my network as well. Okay. And to make sure that whenever someone trying to access any data from one network to another network, I still be having a firewall. Maybe it's a guest access network as well. The another example could be Radius as well. So Radius is another authentication and protocol, authorization protocol as well, which works like access control. Okay. Then we also have an example of maybe RAID 5 array. This is for storage for better security. It's the most one of the very common example for this concept is least privilege implementation. Least privilege talks about a method where you assign only you assign privileges to a user which is enough to perform his job role. Okay. Not more than that. Okay. That's the entire purpose of having least privilege. So if a user is maybe a part of HR, there's a user called John. Okay. And he is a part of John, I mean part of HR team. So I'll ask him, what all portals are you using? I won't allow him all the HR portal. I'll just ask him what all sites or portals or websites you actually use. So based on that, on my firewall, I can create a security rule from source John, maybe IP address, or maybe if I have a next generation firewall, I can use the advanced rule, or maybe user ID, create a rule based on the username itself, where I can have a source, and in the destination, then I can list only those three websites. Okay. It won't be a group of all the HR website, but just three websites. And then I can set an action by saying allow. Okay. So this is called least privilege principle. Okay. Now let's talk about the next topic, which is managerial control. Now this is all about this is all being implemented by the management. This is all implemented by the management. Okay. It could be, this is very important. This there could be some possible questions on this topic as well when you see any security controls or policies suggested by the managers or maybe executives. This will be considered as managerial control. Okay. The focus of this kind of controls are majorly in the decision. Okay. Focus is on how the decision is being done, governance is being done, or maybe risk management altogether. Okay. Risk management is not, it's majorly about addressing or bringing down the overall risk into the network. Okay. Possibility that something would happen. Okay. So the risk management is all being taken care by the managers and executive. They also focus on the procedures. Okay. They also tell you the procedures about how to take care of certain activity. Okay. So decision, risk management, and procedure is something which is handled by the management and executives. So this can be some of the example could be maybe software development life cycle management, where how the software development should be done securely, or maybe some of the example like vulnerability management. Okay, now this is all about how the vulnerability should be, identified, and how it should be prioritized in the network. So remember, vulnerability is just the weaknesses in the system. It could be weakness in your software, it could be weakness in your hardware, it could be weakness in the human itself. And how exactly it's get discovered? So it get discovered by using different tools, like some commercial tool like Nessus, Qualys, or maybe open source tools, like Nmap. But usually organization go for the commercial. Okay, and once you discover those vulnerability, then you decide how which vulnerability to work on, because every day organization come across at least hundreds of vulnerabilities. So they because they have a limited resources, they have to make a decision accordingly, right? So they can make a decision based on on the vulnerability management. And yeah, so this can include different steps as well, like security policies. They can come up with the new security policies, maybe going for 10 letters password for everyone. Okay, or maybe personal background check, or maybe going for a specific compliances, or maybe performing internal audit or change management process, implementing a strict change management process in the network. So that's all comes under the managerial controls. Okay, next we have operational control. Now operation control is all, it's mainly, let's talk about how who execute this. So this is basically being executed by people to increase the system security. Okay, to increase the system security, whenever we want to improve our system security, we call that as operational security. Okay, this includes overall activity. For example, when we talk about going for a training program, maybe user or employee training program, it could be cybersecurity awareness training program. Okay, so that can be, I mean, it's not a one stop solution, but this might improve our overall system security, isn't it? Next, we can go for a fault tolerance program, or disaster recovery program, or better incident response plan. Maybe if something happened, what is the incident response plan we should go for? For example, we can create a ransomware incident response plan. So what is basically included? So there would be a strategy written that how should we detect ransomware. Okay, and if it has been detected, how are we going to contaminate it? Okay, how are we going to contaminate the machine? How are we going to eradicate the machine? What are the stakeholders we are going to inform to? What are the legal team we are going to inform to? And then how are we going to restore the machine? And email address, this point of contact person, group chat creation, Slack creation, everything will be mentioned. And finally, how are we going to learn this issue and document this? So this will come under the incident response plan, and this is all about operational activity. So this can also include, but this, remember, this requires a lot of technical capability. The requirement is very huge, because you cannot do it unless you have someone who has a very perfect technical expertise, or maybe you have a consultant from outside. Okay, this may also involve some physical controls, like backup, replication, or securing your storage infrastructure as well. Okay, now let's talk about the next section, which is physical controls. Okay, now physical control, as the name says, it's the first line of defense in controlling areas. So anything that you do to protect your data or your information on the physical level, that comes under the physical control. Maybe let's say you have a data center. Okay, and there are possibility that people can come here and there, so you can implement some sort of physical control, securing the physical access to the building or equipment, or to the servers, to the routers, switches, like building entrance access or surveillance systems. So this all comes under the physical controls. I hope that's clear, because there's nothing much to talk about the physical control. Okay, so let's quickly go to the controls type now. Okay, and there are quite a lot of different types available, so let's cover one by one. Okay, first, preventive control. As the name says, this is all about employing solutions, employing the controls, security solution or safeguards or countermeasure before an event happen. Okay, this is to prevent an incident to happen. Okay, this is all about prevention mechanism. This is all about prevention. Okay, before the incident even happen. For example, implementing a biometric. Okay, you cannot implement the biometric once the incident happened, right? It doesn't make sense. But if you implement it before, the chances are that you won't get compromised. Okay, so that's why it's preventive control. Like, so just like in your home you have a lock, right? So this is a preventive control, right? So next we have, for example, we can also talk about access list in Cisco routers, or maybe any devices. This is the generic keyword, but access lists are used in the router switches, or you can also say firewall rules are also considered as the access list. So this is basically make sure that only authorized people can access certain resources. So I can create the access list in the routers to allow or to drop or to block certain access, right? Then I also have a password, right? So password with two factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, this will also be coming under the preventive control. So this is very important, make sure you remember this. Okay, we can also have an example like enforcing a security policies, and aim to prevent an incident. So security policies can also come under the right, security policy can also come under the preventive control. Okay, now, let's talk about the next option, which is deterrent controls. Now, deterrent control is basically aimed to discourage the attackers from proceeding. This is more about sort of a messages. Okay, it's all about giving some warning banners to the attacker. For example, sometime I mean the hacker get the access to your routers or switches somehow, let's say. Okay, and a hacker got the access to your infrastructure router. Okay, the edge router. Now usually when the attacker get the access to the edge router, maybe through the SSH or maybe any other medium, we can have a sort of a banner. Okay, we can have a banner which says, okay, this is legally, this is accessing our system is legal, it's illegal, and without any permission it's completely illegal. There would be section this and that, and we can, we are, you would be liable to face court proceeding, or other issues as well. So such kind of warning banners can actually discourage the attacker from proceeding further. Although it doesn't happen, it's not that practical, because it's not that effective, to be very honest. But it's some, in some of the cases it may work. So I'm not saying it never works, but in some of the situation it may work. Okay, so this is all about discouraging intentional violation of any security policies into the network. So majorly warning banner or monitor system which shows that, okay, you are under surveillance, you are getting monitored, it's all comes under the deterrent control. All right, next let's talk about the detective control. Now detective control is all about monitoring and detection. Okay, monitoring and detecting. Okay, monitoring and detecting. Okay, this can be for anything, monitoring and detecting any unauthorized behavior or hazards into the network. It can be monitoring all the server transaction. It could be monitoring the cloud resources, monitoring your endpoints, your computer, a laptop machine for any abnormal behavior into the system. Usually for this we have multiple solutions available. Okay, the most popular solution is the IDS, which is intrusion detection system. Okay, so this is basically deployed in the network to look for any abnormal activity, and this is really powerful. Okay, so when you deploy this, its job is only to monitor and detect any abnormal activity, and then it will report and give an alert to the admin sitting in the SOC network. Okay, and looking at multiple monitors. So that's his job. Okay, next we have another solutions as well, like you can have a SIM solution. Although SIM is majorly used for correlation log analysis, but SIM can be used for monitoring, and those alerts can be given onto the SIM as well. Okay, but SIM is again very popular. There are multiple solutions available. You can also use different other solution for the monitoring as well, or I'll give you some examples. Splunk is very popular. You can also use solutions, open source solution like Grafana for monitoring. You can use the different other solutions for SIM as well, like Microsoft or Azure Sentinel solutions uh, as well. Okay, then we, in the physical space, we also have, for example, CCTV camera. Okay, this is also comes under the monitoring and detection, because in the CCTV camera can only monitor and look for any abnormal behavior. Let's say if someone is walking probably in the midnight, so a CCTV camera is going to monitor it and immediately will send an alert to the person sitting in the security center. Okay, so that's all about the detection control. Now let's talk about the corrective control. Now corrective control, as the name says, is used after an event happen. Okay, so once the incident has happened, then corrective control is used to limit or bring down the overall damage into the network, and maybe to add any recovery as well into the network. Okay, so example could be system store, or maybe vulnerability mitigation. Maybe let's say you have discovered certain vulnerability into the network. Now you can either install certain patch, or you can install patch, or maybe you can as a workaround, you can create an access list or security rule or firewall rules onto your firewall, and this can also be considered in the corrective control. Or maybe you can upgrade your system, so this all comes under the corrective control. So how quickly are you going to actually respond? Maybe there could be one more example. Let's say you got a system infected at this moment. I can And there are maybe 100 or 200 or five, maybe thousands of other machine. I know if it is worms or any ransomware, if the one system has been infected, it might move to the another one, but I detected the machine in the first place itself. So what I can do is I can isolate this computer from rest of the network, so that it won't spread to the rest of the network to other machine, right? So that's how that's falls under the corrective control, right? Now next, let's talk about the compensating control. Okay, this is all about alternative measure to satisfy the security requirements. Like I can have a different other solution, like additional logging option, data loss prevention option, where data loss prevention basically ensures that there's no sensitive data go outside of the network. So the approach when we approach with the caution, as they may not provide the same level of security. This may not be providing a very effective solution, but this can be an add-on solution to the existing network. So that's where it becomes useful. Okay, so DLP is a good option. Additional logging, having an additional logs about the system can also be beneficial, but this is just about compensating. If you know that you cannot implement a lot of solutions, or maybe you implement something just to make sure you have some additional context, you can go for the compensating control. Okay, next let's go for the final one, which is the directive controls. Okay, now sorry, now when we talk about the directive control, this is yeah so when we talk about the directive control, it's all about established to it's used to guide operation and use of system. Okay, so this is where we talk about how a specific system or solution to be used, how a policy should be effectively used. Okay, for better governance or to make sure the infrastructure is secure enough. So that's where we create different standards. Okay, we create a sort of standards that this is our benchmark standards. Like we create a standard based on ISO 27001 framework. These are all frameworks, or you can call it as standards as well. Then we create procedures to implement those security controls. Like how, if let's say the policy, a policy has been created that all the employees should have 12 letters password into the network. So I can create the standards for it, that which has a sort of reference to different compliance. And then I can create the procedures and guideline about how everyone should change their password. So there should be a portal, there should be email going to every employee that this should have. So I can tell them this include the procedure and guideline as well. In the guideline as well, we can talk about what should be there and what should not, do's and don't. Like for example, I it should be alphanumeric, so it's okay. If it is alphanumeric, that okay. There should be some special character, and what special character is allowed, so I can mention that, okay. And it shouldn't be used in the past, okay. So that is also can be considered under that, okay. So security awareness training can also fall under that. We can also influence the secure behavior, and make sure we cultivate that security conscious culture within our company as well, right? So this is all about first chapter, which is majorly focusing on different types of controls, where we have secure controls category and control types. I hope this was cleared for everyone. If you have any question in your mind, do let me know in the comment section.